everything that we do at Hyland Park is all about the difference that we can make in people's lives through the blood of Jesus Christ. Everything. Now, these guys here, they came and they went to El Salvador, and so you can pull up a picture of the team, if you will, and you guys can kind of hone in and kind of tell us. Brandon, you want to tell us about the team, about what you guys did and everything like that?
Yeah, so I think there was 7 of us from Hyland that went, and this was also the missionary and his wife right there in the middle, and then our driver, Roberto, up by one of the lakes. But yeah, I travel around and work with missionaries all over the world, and me and Pastor Brad have been talking for a couple years probably about getting a team from Hyland to go somewhere. So I actually was in El Salvador last September, and I came back and said, man, these guys are awesome, and they have really got it going on, and they're doing things the right way, and they have so many different elements of their ministry, from prison ministry and kids ministry and building houses for the homeless, and just a ton of different launching churches, and have their own church, and even a food school, and all these different things that they've done, clinics and stuff. So just told Pastor Brad, like, that'd be a great place to send a team from Hyland just to get just to touch a little bit of different kinds of ministry all inside 1 week. So that's kind of where we ended
Keep
up.
in mind, this was about a month ago. You noticed that some of them were in shorts. It was really nice
Yeah.
weather.
85, I think, was the high.
Yeah, they came back with tans, and so that's always a plus. The gentleman right here by Brandon on this side, this gentleman Roberto, I want you to just remember him. We're gonna kind of be looking at this. So bring up the next picture, if you will, Casey.
This is at the prison that we went to. It's mainly made of 2 different gangs that are 100% against each other. I believe it was MS-13 and 18th Street. This was one of the first, not only for us, but Brother Moody and his troops. They have never put both gangs together at one spot because they do not like each other, and they've had too many issues in the past. But in this circumstance, they were able to put both groups together who all wanted to attend, to come to our little service that we had there. During this service, Brother Moody's wife was able to talk and share her story to kind of touch base with them, get in their little circle, if you will, of her brother, which was actually murdered by one of their gangs. And that enabled her to kind of get into the feel that they have for each other. That was just one of the first things that happened. The other thing was, obviously, Jonathan led in song, and whoever wanted to participate in that, obviously the gangs knew the old-time hymns, so that was really, really neat for me to see that no matter what the past was, they still know the old time. And after that, we invited up for prayer. Whoever had anything that they had, issues, pasts, anything that wanted prayer, opened up the doors. Most of the people that came up were from the MS-13. At first, at least I didn't think anyone was going to come up from the 18th Street until pretty much the last second. One man stood up and came to the front, which to me seemed like a huge deal. But we were able to pray for them, and then at the end of all that, we were able to hand out the New Testament Bibles in Spanish for them, whoever did not have one, whoever wanted one, so that we can help spread the word that way.
Okay, so they're going into a prison. They're impacting and making a difference. Did you guys ever feel like unsafe or any moment like you were just like?
Not a single second.
Okay.
By the end, we were playing basketball with some of them.
Really? Okay, so so you went to the prisons. Can I pull up if you can pull up the village? Okay, Josh, you want to tell us about the?
Yeah, for sure. So Sunday night, the very first night, the full day that we were there, we were told that we were going to be going out and visiting this pastor who had just planted a church out in this village. Brother Moody, who the missionary was that we were with, had never been out there, never had visited this church, didn't really know what to expect. So we hop into our van, and the church members that were actually going there to help minister this village, just kind of put things into perspective. We have church vans with seat belts that everybody can kind of ride around in. They had these pickup trucks basically with covered, that were covered, and basically with bars that people could hang on to. So we're talking everybody from ages of 7 all the way up to maybe 70 were riding in the back of these church vans, church buses, church trucks. And so we had 2 of those who were actually following us up to this village. Brother Moody was kind of leading the way. It wounded up through the mountains, very beautiful scenery. But then as we got up there towards this village, we actually had to get out of the van because our van got stuck. The road was kind of washed out. I just kind of began looking around. Everything was overgrown. I'm like, why are we going out here? I mean, no one lives out here. There can't be anybody who lives out here. It was actually on the edge of a volcano where this village was at. And so we get up there, and there's this metal building. All it was just a metal frame with some metal siding and a metal roof. The windows were open. The doors were open. I mean, there wasn't really any way to lock it up. There was no insulation. Not that you would need it just because it's tropical weather the whole time. But you get there, and it's just this metal building that somebody had put up. And next thing we know, people start flocking towards this building. And so a few of the gentlemen of us, we had taken some candy, some suckers, and we start walking just up this overgrown path. And next thing we know, there's these homes. I mean, that was their home. But the shape, of course, that some of these homes were in, I mean, you would just stand there and you were just kind of, I mean, it was shocking to me. But yet people were living there, and kids and older people and husbands and wives. I mean, and next thing you know, there's this huge, massive village. And,
any electricity or any?
No, there was some electricity there at the church building, but within the homes, I didn't see.
How did they get their water?
Oftentimes, I think there was just like some wells that were drawn, or some water that they would have to go collect. Inside the city, they actually had some running water, but it was just like an outside faucet. No water heaters, nothing like that of that nature, unless, of course, you had some of the wealthier people in the wealthier parts of town. But where you have your poverty-type living, it was either you collect your water, you have a well that maybe you dug, or as you got closer to the city, maybe then you had some running water.
In the village, how many people, now you're ministering here in this village,
Yeah.
how many people came?
So this is one of their trucks, and then the sides broke down, and if you can kind of see there, all the kids that are up on the truck and there down below the truck were the children from the village that had came out. So I would say probably all in all, probably about 30, 40 kids had came out from the village that we were able to minister to. So I had the opportunity with Vidi's translation. We were able to tell the kids the story of salvation. One of the cool things also about the church that we were partnering with is their team that they had basically trained was led by teenagers. So the team that was actually there ministering to the kids and kind of leading everything was an adult-led village. So I know you can't see it, but back behind us where we were standing was where that church building was at. So while the adults had you can see that building back there behind us.
That's their church?
That was the church building right there. And so they had us doing a game to where the kids would walk around us, and whenever the music stopped, they had to jump up on us. And then once they jumped up on us, we had to do an earthquake. So we had to kind of shake a little bit to see if we could get one of the kids to fall off of us. And,
no kids were hurt in the process.
No kids
of
were
this,
hurt in these pictures, right? So of course, the last kid that was able to hang on was the winner. So it was really a very, very moving moment, very moving time. Great opportunity to be able to minister to someone out in a village, out in the middle of nowhere that you wouldn't think that anybody lived. But I think we had 4 kids who ended up giving their life to Christ that night. And I don't know any of the stats from the adult service, but during their altar time, it was a very moving moment.
Okay, so we're looking at prison ministry and we're looking at village ministry. Now let's talk about the house build. You guys went as a church before the team left. We raised money as a church, and were able to raise enough money for our team to build a house to buy all of the material. Vidi, you want to tell us what we're looking at here? What actually took place?
So you guys can see, like, in the middle, that's the team and Brother Moody, and then some of the guys from his church that helped build the house. I got to talk to the family while the guys built the house.
She put in at least 3 nails in.
Yes.
So she did swing a hammer.
So I got to know a little bit of the family's history, and the lady in the purple is who we built the house for, and she's actually from Honduras, and she moved to El Salvador. And before we actually built the house for them, one of the walls in her house was actually really loose, and it fell on her leg. So she was really thankful that she was getting a new house. And she's not the only one living in there. She has her daughter living in there, 2 granddaughters, a great-granddaughter, and then a boy that they kind of took in from Guatemala. So it was pretty cool to see how thankful they were for something that we may see so simple and stuff, but they were so thankful to have just a roof over their head. So the guys did great building the house.
Okay, now there's go ahead and show us some of the other pictures. They and I want to go into something that happened. Remember Roberto, that was the driver. Go ahead and go to one of the other pictures there, Casey, if you don't care. This here is Roberto. Okay, this is him and his daughter. Okay, now keep in mind that Roberto has been driving the van for this missionary for
10 years.
10 years. Okay, 10 years he's driven the van for this missionary. Every time whenever a church comes down, then they will have teams. They'll bring a team just like we did, and they will have drivers that will go and take them to the different places. And so Roberto has been driving for 10 years, and Roberto was not a believer. Okay, now I want you to just think about this. He has been around these missionaries for 10 years and has never given his life to Christ. Okay, so give me, Brandon. You want to tell me just a little bit about what kind of took place? You want to walk us through, or however you guys want to do this?
Let's see if we can do the basics quickly.
Okay. Just a quick, because we want to get to this.
Yeah. So he picked us up at the airport that Saturday when we got there, and I told Jonathan, because he didn't speak much English, I said, Jonathan, hey, why don't you jump in the front and you can talk to Roberto, because most of us would just be sitting there silent. And so he just got to know him and find out just who he is and about his life and his family. And then he has two daughters and a wife, and actually teaches computer science in some school or something in Santa Ana.
Now, he wasn't supposed to drive the whole week.
Yeah, so normally he only drives on the weekends, and we didn't really know that at first, but Brother Moody, I asked him something about going into the service the next Sunday morning, because we got it there on a Saturday, and he's like, yeah, I've talked to Roberto before, and he just kind of always avoids the subject and skirts around it and stuff. So we all just really felt like, man, we should really be praying for Roberto, because I don't know, it just was on our heart, you know. And so we just kind of talked to him, and we all agreed. We met at night for our kind of recap of the day, and just said, okay, we're going to pray for Roberto this week too. And then we're all excited, like, yeah, all right, we're gonna minister Roberto, and then we get there the next morning, and he's not the driver anymore. We're like, well, okay. So that's what we found out. He only usually drives on the weekends, so the next time you see him might be when he takes you back to the airport. It's like, oh, great. So we were all a little let down, and then we went to one of the other events that we had to do, and the driver that we had to change the oil in the van. And so he took the van, and after he dropped us off, and then another van came back, and Roberto was the driver again.
What day was this?
I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, I think it was Tuesday.
Okay, so Roberto's not supposed to drive the whole week, and he shows up on Tuesday too. Does he finish out the week with you guys?
He didn't do Wednesday and Thursday, but he finished out Tuesday with us, and we went to dinner that night. And usually the driver is just a hired driver. He stays with the van that he's driving the whole time. And so we had dinner that night, and Roberto just was staying with the van, and we said, no, Roberto, come in with us and have. We were actually at the Pizza Hut, really suffering for Jesus there.
El Salvador Pizza Hut.
Yeah, in the city. So we went to the Pizza Hut and said, hey, come in and eat with us, Roberto, and you can pay the security guard. All the lots have security guards and stuff, so you can pay them a little tip money to watch the lot from the back of your vehicle, basically. And so we did that and had Roberto come in with us, and Then we got ice cream after that, and he kind of was going to go back to his van, and we said, no, Roberto, come get ice cream with us. Like, just come on. Like, you're part of our team. Like, we were just going to welcome him as part of our team, no matter what, and just get to know him.
So Roberto's spending time with this team. Now, what happened? There was an invitation. Okay, and this is what we're talking about this morning. There was an invitation to, you guys were doing a Friday night.
Yeah, there was a Friday night service, and this is really cool, and it's a cool testament to just how a lot of these people's minds think. So what was really cool is, when God gives you a talent, it's not meant that talent's necessarily to just be hidden and wasted away. You use that talent to spread the gospel or even be a catalyst to spread the gospel. So we went and hiked a volcano on Friday, which is actually probably one of the worst decisions of my life.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify what I did as hiking.
It was pretty amazing. But
Okay, well,
I survived the volcano.
You hiked the
not
volcano?
fit for a 7,500, 8,000 foot volcano. But anyways, it was a very beautiful moment, and Roberto, he actually went on the hike with us. But it was really cool to watch him because he was there just kind of hanging out with us and just really becoming a part of the team.
Yeah, he didn't break a sweat either.
No, not at all.
All the way up and down.
But Jonathan, being his family's from El Salvador and of course knowing how to speak Spanish, was able to connect with him. But Brandon had an idea too. Brandon being a photographer, we wanted to invite him to church that Friday. And Brandon, using his talents, also said, hey, why don't you bring your daughters as well? They have a great children's ministry there at this church. Go ahead and come a few minutes early, and I'll take a few pictures of you and your daughters that you can have. And so I thought that was really a cool idea of using some of the talents and some of the things that maybe God had blessed Brandon with to be able to also be an instrument to be able to invite Roberto. And so we ended up doing that, and he came early, brought his two daughters. They were beautiful children as you can see, and you could tell the connection they had with their dad was amazing. They just connected, and they loved on their dad, and you could tell he loved his daughters, and so it was just really cool to see that moment. And
Had he ever come to church before, maybe for like a service?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but
Where were you guys sitting in church on Friday night?
No. Yeah, so that's kind of funny too. 'Cause we show up and we barely get there because it's crazy traffic on a Friday night in the city, and we get there and literally the only chairs left are the front two rows on the sides. We're like, well, I guess we're going to be sitting up front. So yeah, we just invited him, say, hey, come sit with us, and he came up, sat with us up front.
Okay, so Roberto's sitting with the team on the second row on a Friday night service, and the evangelist is speaking, and there's no
the
interpreter.
evangelist is speaking. I didn't understand a word he was saying. So, so during the whole time, Roberto's sitting there with us, and they had just released so what they did is they had their kids there and worship with them, and then after worship, the kids go. So Vidi actually went with his two daughters just to make sure that they were getting taken care of and were feeling welcome there in the kids' ministry. She came back 2 minutes later because they of course connected really quick. But during the whole time, those of us who didn't understand really what was going on in the service, we were just sitting there just praying for Roberto the whole time.
Okay. So throughout the service, the evangelist is speaking in Spanish, and you guys are praying. He gives an altar call, I guess.
Yep.
And you guys are still praying?
Yeah, we're still praying. Most of us all probably still have our eyes closed, as you're supposed to do during prayer, right? So we all have our eyes closed, and I didn't know that an altar call was given until I opened my eyes during prayer.
Yeah, I was actually still praying, and I don't know if it was Brother Moody or
Brother Moody had come up to us and kind of.
Okay, so this is when the team opens their eyes. This is Roberto is the only one at the front. The altar call is giving. He comes up to the front, and he's the only one standing at the front.
So we're sitting there with our eyes closed, and of course I open my eyes and I see Roberto down there. So I'm elbowing Brandon in the side. I'm like, Brandon, Roberto's down at the front. And so we all, of course, get up. Brother Moody comes over and he's like, this is a prayer for salvation. Is basically what he informs us. And so we, of course, as a team, go down and surround Roberto and begin to pray with him.
So they go down, and you can show that first picture. The team goes down, and they're praying for him. Roberto gives his life to Christ. My question to you is this: who do you need to invite? Who do you need to share the gospel and the life change that you have? See, I'm just curious on this team that they went down and they saw everything that happened, and they were a part of this huge thing that God is doing at this in this church in the villages, and they had a youth group there, and they had the kids ministry there, and everything that's taking place. And Roberto's seeing all of this, but what it took was this team. They invited Roberto to eat dinner with them, Pizza Hut, praise the Lord, Pizza Hut, and ice cream. Thank you, Jesus. Right? It was just an invitation. And so, what would have happened if the team would have never invited? Think about the change. Think about the impact that now his daughters, that they have in their life, and that Roberto has in his life. Heaven is made different because of an invitation. And so I'm just curious on what invitation you give. And I'm so thankful. These guys are my heroes. And it's because of what they do. They take off work and they go and they impact, and they go and they share the gospel. And keep in mind that everything that we're doing, it's not just a missions trip. This is all about sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what it's all about. That is our base. We're not trying to just go and just do something in a community and just, I hope they do well, and I hope they make an impact, and I hope they get better. It's all about sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, any other thoughts that you guys want to, as we start wrapping this up, that you want to share?
I think the main thing was just with Roberto as we were meeting at nighttime and kind of reflecting on our days, and it was just that thought of, man, village ministry is so cool, and it looks cool, and you feel like you're on the front lines, and and then you're in a prison and all these other things, and I just told the team, hey, we don't want to. I love doing that stuff, but I don't want to be so focused out there that we miss the one in front of us that's right in our van with us.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think from the whole aspect of going on a missions trip, this is my first time to ever go on a missions trip outside the country, and it really puts a whole lot of things into perspective. It really does. But it also makes you realize too, and at first you kind of feel like a failure because you're like, man, God, is it really taking a trip like this to open up my eyes to seeing that there's needs just in my backyard, and that there's needs in the people who live right next to me, and that there's needs within foster care here in America, that there's needs within just our own four walls here. And so I looked at it as God just saying to me, shame on me if I fail to Brandon's point, if I fail to miss out on the opportunities that God has placed me in America, where God's placed me in Fayetteville, where God's placed me in my work. And I think that's just the whole perspective. If all of us can just have that perspective on life of saying where God has placed us is that mission field that he's called us to. And then with this opportunity that Pastor's talking about of just who are the ones that God wants us to invite. Just imagine, the world and how it can look and how it can be changed just by us focusing on where God's placed us.
Hey everyone, it's Drew, aka in Espanol Trevor for whatever reason. Brandon can tell you all about that, I'm sure. Just a little bit about my experience on the trip. I had a wonderful time, had a blast. The people there are very grateful, very generous, kind-hearted people, and wonderful hospitality. My favorite part of the trip, I'd have to say, would probably be the house build. I like working with my hands, yes, but in a sense that I actually enjoyed doing something not for just my own benefit. It was actually putting my heart in a state of humility, which is actually what Jesus did when he said that he came not to be served, but to serve others. And really, that's what it's really all about. And I'm just very thankful and grateful that God has really just given me the opportunity in doing so. And but yeah, all in all, I had a wonderful time. Everything was about the trip was great, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But thank y'all. See you next week.
Hey there, Hyland Park family. Greetings all the way from Houston. Well, first and foremost, I want to give honor and glory and thanks to God for the awesome opportunity that we all had to be a part of the first mission trip team from Hyland Park. And we couldn't have done it without any single one of you all. And just to get right to it, the mission trip was such an amazing experience for, I'm pretty sure, each and every single one of us that took part in it. For me especially, it meant a lot because it is the country in which my family comes from. Both of my parents were born and raised in El Salvador. My grandmother still lives in El Salvador. The real reason why we were there was to help Brother Moody and his vision and his ministry. And let me just say that it was an amazing experience. It was awesome, completely all around. Besides the food being great, besides everything else being awesome, the work that we did meant so much, not only to the people who we were doing it for, but also for us and for me individually. It meant a lot. Being able to build the home, help with the rehab center, visit the local juvenile there, and just to see the way that lives are being touched, lives are being changed, a country in which people don't have much, but they still worship God as if there's nothing missing for them. It was an amazing experience for all of us. Of course, my favorite part, like previously mentioned, was the food. But I think the best part was being able to reach our driver and present Jesus and plant a seed and watch that seed begin to blossom. Our driver, we did not know that he was not a believer, and we all found it in our hearts that our new mission and our main mission was not to build the home, was not to build rehab centers, was not to do anything but to present love and to present Jesus and salvation for our driver. And let me just say that on the last night that we were there, God did the final work, and he received Jesus, accepted him as his Savior, and it was awesome. Our plan is to, like the gospel says, reach every corner of this world and to preach the gospel and to show love, show Jesus. And again, I cannot thank each and every single one of you enough. This was such a heartfelt trip for me, and I'm pretty sure for everybody else. And well, I hope that this is only the beginning of what is to come. I hope that next year or our next mission trip we're to have even more people motivated to go and have the means to go. And well, like I said, everything happens for a reason. So we are excited and we are immensely grateful for everything and cannot wait for the next mission trip that God will allow us to go to. God bless you all, and thank you once again.